And I actually leaned forward and looked down inside the bag, and I saw that he had mostly some Ho-Hos and some Twinkies and Star Crunches. He had a couple Gatorades inside of there, lemon, lime, orange. And at that point I was like, okay, you didn't need anything to eat. You already had a bag full, but in the meantime, he began, he closed up his bag and was eating some Ho-Hos, which comes 3 in a package. And these are the ones with the chocolate icing around the outside, but in the inside it looks like a swirl of chocolate cake and icing. Pretty good. You can actually twirl them and eat them at the same time until there's nothing left but the center. But anyway, he was munching on that and telling this story about how the last time he came back from CAX, which is Combined Armed Exercise, that's when artillery, the infantry, and air all assault the target at the same time. Of course, it's well coordinated to make sure that we don't hit each other. That would be a bad thing and result in many lost lives, which is not a good thing during training. Of course, if you don't train that way, you don't win in battle. When the stakes are really there and the stakes are really high, so you gotta train as if it was the real thing, and that's what we do. We train hard and long, and sometimes we train dangerously, but overall it helps us come home alive. But anyway, I just blanked out. Anyway, he was telling this story about how he had come back from Combined Arms Exercise, and how he was wearing his tuxedo, how he went to Club 108 and slid across the dance floor, knelt down and gave his girlfriend a dozen roses. It was while wearing these bear shoes. They had the little white claws on them, kind of like you wear when you're about to, lounge around your house in your pajamas. Well, anyway, it was a strange story, I know, but probably not as strange as one I'm telling. But anyway, he took about 5 minutes to tell this story, and I'd heard it once already, so I was just sitting there listening, sitting next to Corporal Jason Laycock, and Jason Laycock was just pestering, just bugging him to death for one of those Ho-Hos. Every 15 seconds he'd be like, yeah, can I get one? Oh yeah, that's neat. How about now? And he's just, pestering him, and I'm just looking at the two. And 3 times while he was telling this story, he leaned over and he would look me right in the face as he was wrapping up the third one and wrapping up his story. And finally, he gave over half of a Ho-Ho to Jason Laycock. He leans over and he looks at me right in the face, and he's only 4 feet away from me. He leans over and he looks me right in the face. He goes, "I don't think he's playing." Of course, we're the only 3 in the room, so I'm just like, what's he talking about? So Jason Laycock and I turn and look back, and sure enough, there's my body hanging from the noose. Needless to say, I was completely shocked. I don't have that great of eyesight. I need glasses, and at that time it was no different. But I could still tell from the outline that it was me, So I immediately, just shocked, I just stood up, and I turned and faced my body, which was hanging from that noose roughly about 30 feet away. And I walked out, and I walked over closer till I was about, maybe 15 feet away, so I could get a better look, and sure enough, it was definitely me. And I'm standing there, and I'm thinking to myself, how can I be there and here at the same time? I look down, and I'm sure enough, I'm wearing the same green t-shirt, the same brown web belt, the same camouflage pants, the same black boots. I even pulled my dog tags out, and I was still wearing them. But it was when I pulled my dog tags out that I dropped them, and I looked at my hand, and I realized that if I stared at my hand, I could see through my hand and see the sand on the ground. And that's when I realized I was dead. And I had been dead and sitting next to my friends for 5 minutes, and then I realized they didn't even know I was there. They couldn't see me. That's when Jason Laycock came up and he knelt down beside me, and he took a photograph of my body hanging from that noose, and I was standing there right beside him, and of course he had no clue that I was standing beside him. But anyway, he goes, "Now that's a good picture," and snaps the last photo. The film began to rewind, and Corporal Toby Page walked up and looked beside him and just gave him this stupid look, like, "Are you?" And he actually said exactly what I was thinking. "Are you retarded?" He goes, "Look at him." And of course he was saying a few expletives, which I will not repeat. But he goes, "Look at him." He goes, his nose is blue, his lips are blue, his eyelids are blue. There's drool hanging out of his mouth all the way down to the ground. And he goes, "Are you a bleeping retard?" You know? And he stood up and he took a couple steps forward. I mean, because Jason Laycock has these really thick bottle lens glasses, and his eyesight's no better than mine. And I'm going to give you a basic description of Jason Laycock. Jason Laycock was an S2 intelligence, very intelligent guy. Despite all the funny things you can say about intelligence people, he really was intelligent. Kind of nerdish, a little bit underweight, probably about 110 pounds, 5'10", maybe 5'9", and but not a bad looking guy. I mean, if he had packed on a few more pounds, maybe 30, 40 pounds, he would, I'd put him in the handsome category. But Corporal Page was probably about 5'9", 5'10", about the same height. Only he was a real buff guy, because he worked out in the gym a lot. Most administration guys, S1 administration guys, don't go to the field all that often. So he's probably spent 3 or 4 hours in the gym every day. He had a little bit of an acne problem. That's probably from taking all those supplements. But anyway, after he took the picture and the little guy berated him a little bit, Corporal Jason Laycock stood up, took a couple steps forward, and then realized that what he was saying was true. He saw that my extremities on my face were blue, so he tossed his camera off over towards his rack, not really caring for its care at all where it landed. He just tossed it, and he ran forward and he grabbed my body around the waist and picked up. When he did this, he screamed for Corporal Page to come over there and get the noose off my neck. Now, myself, I was thinking it was a little bit backwards. I mean, the tough guy should have been picking me up while the other guy was getting the rope off my neck. In my mind, that's the way that it should have worked. I'm glad that it didn't work that way, though, because otherwise I would still be in that noose. Because Corporal Page, for all his strength, barely got the noose off my neck. And I mean, he had to really struggle with it, and it was something to watch him struggle with it. While he was struggling with it, I actually thought to myself, you know what, I'm going to try to step into my body and stand up. And bad idea. When I tried that, when I stepped forward trying to step forward into my body, it was just like somebody slugged me. I mean, just as hard as I could possibly be hit. And the sense of vertigo came over, it overtook me and just weakened me. So I actually stumbled backwards like dizzy. And I said, okay, bad idea. And that's actually when I became concerned. I wasn't too concerned before. Even though I realized I was dead, I was not concerned about it, which is an odd thing, I know. And mostly unbelievable. I mean, I was just mostly in shock. Anyway, they managed, for all his strength, it took him 2 or 3 tries to get the rope off my neck, and he was just exhausted afterwards. I mean, his arms were completely burned out. And like I said, this is a guy who lifts weight in the gym constantly. So he really exerted himself. If it had been the other way around, Jason's small frame would have never been able to get that rope off my neck, even though the other guy could probably held me up for hours. it never would have come off. Anyway, they drag my body over and they throw it on my rack, and immediately Uncle Page began to freak out. I mean, he's like, "Oh my God, we gotta tell somebody. We gotta do something." I mean, he was in the go mode while Uncle Page was sitting over there like the thinker. You could tell his mind was just turning at 1,000,000 miles an hour. And he was looking over at Uncle Page, and he was like, "Shut up, stop pacing." And I'm thinking. I mean, he was the thinker. I mean, if he could have come with a way or a story to throw over this so that they could have gotten out of it, he would have been the one to come up with it. While the other guy was just completely freaking out. In the meantime, I thought, okay, well, this is my opportunity. My body's not moving around anymore. It's laying down. It's, in a stable position. I'll just lay back down into my body. And so that's pretty much what I did. I placed my foot inside of my foot and my other foot inside my foot, and I sat down just like I'm sitting now, and I looked back and saw how my body was laying and how my head was positioned, so I just leaned back into my body. And as my head went inside my head, because you got to remember, my soul was laying down into my body. I know it sounds weird when I say my foot inside my foot, my head inside my head, but you'll get the picture now. So anyway, I'm leaning back, and as soon as my head falls inside my head, I'm instantaneously standing up, and I'm in complete darkness. I mean, it's a darkness that you could almost feel. I know it sounds weird, it doesn't make any sense, but that's the only way that I can put it. I mean, because this darkness had like a texture to it, and it was complete darkness. It was just solid black. And I know the first thing I thought to myself is, well, where am I? And I had no clue where I was. I was still wearing everything that I'd been wearing before, only I was just in this place that I didn't recognize at all. And the first thing I noticed is that there is nothing. And when I say nothing, I mean absolutely nothing. There's no light, no wind, no sound, nothing. And I thought to myself, there can't be nothing. I'm standing on something. So I looked down, and I'm standing on nothing. I mean, the only way I can liken it to is if you went inside of a giant warehouse and elevated yourself a good 30 feet off the ground until you stood on a plate of glass, so that when you dimmed the lights you couldn't see the ground beneath you, but yet you could still see beneath you. That's the only way I can explain it to. It was like standing on air that was hard as stone, but had no reflection. It was like standing on hardened air or glass that had no reflection. That's the closest I can come to explaining it. But when you look down, you could literally see beneath your feet for a couple feet down, but you were standing on nothing. And I thought to myself, well, if I was in a completely dark room, I wouldn't be able to see my hand in front of my face. How is it that I'm able to see what there's light coming from somewhere? And so I look up, because that's where pretty much all sources of light are, whether you're inside or outside, they're above you. So I looked up, and I see nothing. And that's when I realized that I was the one that was emanating the light that I was able to see with. I was glowing like a chem light, those little shaped lights that you use for walking around on Halloween, or for the military. We used it for different things, but the little chemical lights that had the little glass thing in it, and you break them and you shake them up. I was glowing like that.